Hello, everyone. It's Recotopia, episode 187. My name is Chris Atkinson, joined by Aaron Dicer.
Howdy ho, Dunsterinos.
Dunster.
Yes. And we are also joined by Jeremy Scott.
Hello, everybody.
That's right. And we'd also like to welcome Chat, who have come out here to watch us talk about movies on a Wednesday afternoon. It's really different and wild. No telling what might happen on a Wednesday afternoon when we talk movies, folks. It's so different from our Tuesday show. Anyway, the movie today, the big recommend, is Civil War from last year. Can't wait to get into that one. Let's get into our small recommends. Jeremy, what do you got?
I will watch any movie that is titled Something Baby. No, I'm just kidding. I watched a movie called Sorry Baby on HBO about 5 or 6 days ago. I didn't know anything about it at all. And this is a movie about a woman named Agnes. She's a professor at the college she attended herself. And an old friend who was a student with her comes to visit and is pregnant and is about to give birth. And it makes Agnes realize how stuck she's been in her life. And then basically most of the rest of the movie is flashback as we see the events from her college days. She's sexually assaulted by a mentor. And when they go to report it the next day, her and her friend, they find out he's already resigned and left town. So the school doesn't have any way to investigate or punish him. And it kind of just grinds her life to a stop while everyone else's life keeps going. And eventually she even ends up having his office when she's a professor at the school. What's really unique about this movie is that it's a comedy. There's a lot of laughs here, a lot of biting, unexpected humor that still treats the situation around her with respect. And I just haven't seen very many movies do that, or even try to balance humor with a subject matter as serious as this one. And it's director, writer, lead actor is Eva Victor, who uses they, them pronouns, and has been in many things as an actor that I have not seen. But this is their first writing, directing debut, and it's unnervingly confident. It's one of those movies that makes me go, yep, I should never make movies.
I was racking my brain trying to remember where I had seen them, what I had seen them from, and it's Billions. They were in Billions for a couple seasons, and loved that role. And it's one of those things where you just you've seen them before, and and then when you finally put your finger on it, it feels like a wonderful release. But I back up what you say about Sorry Baby. It's great. It's a really good watch. I love it when a movie has a sense of humor that is kind of its own. Like, there's not a lot like this. It feels like there are bits and pieces of stuff maybe like Rachel Sennett has done, or but it's a little deeper and grittier than that. It's I don't know. There's a scene with I looked it up. John Carroll Lynch. There's a scene with John Carroll Lynch in this movie that blew my mind. It may be one of my favorite movie scenes of the year. Just what they're talking about, how they're talking about the meeting of these people in this situation. Yeah, this is a good watch. This is a really good watch.
Even there's a moment where they lock eyes and he can tell that she knows he's the Zodiac.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that does happen.
That'd be amazing if that plot just kind of like tangentially went into other movies. Just anytime John Carroll Lynch shows up, it's like
There's also a great bathtub scene with Lucas Hedges.
Yeah.
And Eva Victor. That I don't know. I found a lot of the movie really refreshing and interesting. So yeah.
I have to give this one a look. Aaron, what do you got?
Yeah, I saw a movie called Sketch I don't know if you guys have heard of this, know of its existence. I came to it through one of the producers who I follow, who used to be like a Christian music artist who has gone into film, named Steve Taylor, and one of my favorite lyricists of all time. Just has a great way of crafting words and lyrics, and a really smart guy. And it stars Tony Hale and Darcy Carden. So you may know Tony Hale from various things like Arrested Development, those kind of things. Darcy Carden was in The Good Place as Janet, and has done many other things as well. But I think the movie hinges on the kid actors, because there are three main kid actors, and when you have a movie that has three main actors who are children, you gotta nail it. And it feels like the movie really did nail it. I loved this movie. This movie gave me vibes of 80s, 90s movies where the kids were like figuring out how to be heroes. And it seems like everything has kind of gone to that adolescent range in these kind of movies, coming of age kind of stuff. And this is just like, Goonies, or, some of those kind of movies. It's also fantastical. I'll give you just kind of the elevator pitch. Girl loses her mother and copes with it through therapy, and the therapist recommends drawing, sketching, those kind of things. And due to this, let's just say supernatural force nearby, I won't give too much away, her sketches start coming to life. And so the darkness that she is putting into her notebook all of a sudden is in the world around them. So it's kind of like a little R.L. Stine kind of horror, like kid horror kind of stuff going on here too. I was really impressed. I laughed a lot. I had a lot of fun, and I really thought thematically it was really solid. So, yeah, it's called
Is this in
Sketch.
theaters?
No, but it is available. It was in theaters for a hot second, and then now I think it's VOD. I don't know that it's streaming anywhere, but it is available VOD.
This has nothing to do with the movie, but I was watching Rich Eisen on. He always does the celebrity true or false and all that stuff, and he had Morgan Freeman on there, and he was, saying, "Now You See Me, Now You Don't" comes out November 20th, whatever. And he kept saying it's available in theaters like November 14th, and I was like, available? When have we ever talked about movies in theaters being available? He kept saying that too. Anyway,
It's like Pearl Jam's coming to town. They'll be available for 3 concerts.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I did go to the theater, and I watched Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, and I loved this movie. I've had a love-hate relationship with Del Toro over the years. Haven't been quite sold on everything he does, and I know he came up, and it was just like, what am I missing, guys? He's kind of it feels like he's like a fanboy of movies, and he kind of makes some decent stuff, and like everybody's considered him like the next thing or whatever. But I think the last 20 years maybe has kind of proven he's really good at what he does. And I loved Nightmare Alley that came out last, and The Shape of Water I loved. I mean, these are some good movies that have come out. This telling of Frankenstein is a little bit different from ones that you have seen in the past. It doesn't create a monster that just like, oh, we're just gonna have to be scared of the monster or whatever. This is a humanized version of the monster. And it starts off with Oscar Isaac playing Frankenstein, and he's sort of the hero of the movie. The one thing that the trick of this movie is his dad is played by I can't remember the guy's name, the guy who was Lannister in Game of Thrones.
I can't remember his name either.
Charles Dance plays him. And Charles Dance is like this, he's playing Lannister in this basically, and he's as the young, he's abusive to the young Victor. And you're like, oh man, this Victor, yeah, he's going to show his dad one day. He's going to be the best scientist in the world. But then the story kind of gets to the point where he, when he does create the monster and everything, you're like, oh, okay, I can kind of see where this is going. Like his father, he's becoming his father basically through all of this. But anyway, this is a great humanized story of the Frankenstein monster. There's some great moments in this where, he's away from the castle and he befriends a blind man, which is something that from Bride of Frankenstein, and of course Young Frankenstein parodied it later on. But he befriends a blind man, and he does all these kind acts, and he's a very kind person. Jacob Elordi, man, he's going to be nominated for this. I think. Wow. I feel like he's got to get nominated for this performance. This is. I don't know. I would assume he's already broken out, but should be a breakout for like critics and fans alike, I think. But Oscar Isaac is great in it. There's a great it's not more than a cameo of Christoph Waltz in this too. And Mia Goth is great in this as well. A lot of great performances. So yeah, if you get a chance, I think it goes on Netflix. I don't know what in the next couple weeks, a month, somewhere around there.
It'll be on Netflix by the time you hear this. It's actually 2 days from now is when it drops.
Oh, I didn't know I was that close to getting to see it.
So, you get a chance to see it like immediately, even though I would say this is a great movie theater experience. If you can find it, I don't know if you can at this point, but because Netflix is notorious about being unfun about a lot of things. But I thought this was brilliant, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this nominated for a lot of Oscars in the end. So
I have not seen it, mostly because I knew I could, check it out here in a couple days. And there were other things that I wanted to see in the theater during my theater time. But I am excited to see it. I will take the opportunity, since you mentioned the Oscar race, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. I did look up Variety's odds. They have Elordi at number 8 right now in supporting actor odds.
Outside looking in, then.
Yeah, just on the outside. So yeah,
and that's too bad. I'm sure there's a lot of great performances this year that I'm just not touching on right now. But yeah, he immediately once he appears on screen, he's gonna arrest your attention.
I'm trying to think who I've seen. A Preacher Boy from Sinners has got to be nominated for supporting, right?
Yeah, I would say he's got to be.
They have Delroy Lindo from Sinners at 10 right now, and Miles
to get Delroy Lindo a nomination.
I know.
Defy Bloods, man. He should have been he should have won for Defy Bloods, and I don't think he even got nominated for that.
No, I agree with you. And Miles Catton, I believe is his name, is at 11 right behind him. This is one of those years where, unfortunately, it looks like 2 of the slots in supporting actor are going to be both from One Battle After Another, Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn. And it always kind of annoys me, but I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, if the people think they're both worthy of putting them in there, you put them in there, I guess. Yeah. But I'm excited to see Frankenstein for sure.
I will say, I'm like Chris, I had a love-hate relationship with del Toro's career up until about 5 movies ago. Like, I liked Shape of Water, but then he really started getting me with Nightmare Alley and the Pinocchio that he did. I really connected.
Pinocchio is amazing. I love that
and
movie.
So I have read a lot about this adaptation, and the monster is apparently a lot more faithful to the book in that he speaks in complete sentences and has feelings and whatnot. I'm very, very excited about this.
And in the chat, I saw a question: do we need another Frankenstein? I said the exact same thing before I watched this movie, and I feel like, yes, if you're going to make it this way, then yes, we needed another Frankenstein.
I said the same thing about Pinocchio. Do we really need another Pinocchio? We had another one that same year.
Right, exactly. a weird other Pinocchio. Was that the Zemeckis? Was that Zemeckis?
I think it was Tom Hanks. I don't know if it was Zemeckis.
That other Pinocchio was awful.
No, it was terrible.
It might have been Zemeckis. It was somebody like that.
Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah, Zemeckis. I was like,
man,
I always think, poor guy.
What is the movie that throws up his credit in it as a joke, directed by Robert Zemeckis? I can't It's a recent one. I'll have to Google it later. Apologies, but no, I don't think so.
In which the podcast becomes, what was that movie?
What was that thing?
Who was that actor?
when did that? What was the? That was
we just
awesome.
do that for 60 minutes and never come up with an answer.
Remember that one time? That was awesome.
The chat will be sitting there giving us answers, and we'll be like, but I don't know what it could be.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to our big recommend, which is Civil War, and it was Jeremy's choice. So, Jeremy, take it away.
All right, everybody. We open on President Parks and Rec rehearsing and then giving a speech to the American people about how the armed conflict in the country is nearing an end because his forces are about to overwhelm the opposition with hyperbole. The opposition known as the Western forces. We meet Kirsten Dunst's character Lee as she watches the speech from a hotel room, and we also see a huge explosion outside her room that rattles the windows. Next, we see a protest in New York slowly beginning to turn violent, and we see Jessie, a young woman without protective gear or press labels, and then we see Lee, who's a seasoned photojournalist in a yellow vest, who has noticed the young Jessie being reckless. And we also see Lee's partner, Joel. Sometimes when I write these synopses, I don't use English. Joel greets and hugs another journalist that we'll meet again later. As the protest gets even more violent, Jessie takes a stray baton to the head, which Lee sees happen. Lee then escorts her away and behind a police car to comfort her. Jessie recognizes Lee as a famous photographer who took a famous photo during the Occupy Wall Street protests. A young woman protester approaches the troops with a backpack, and it explodes just as Lee ducks herself and Jessie behind the car for safety. In shock, afterwards, Jessie sees Lee walking through the bodies, taking pictures, and takes a photo of Lee. At a hotel later, mostly populated with journalists, Lee and her partner Joel and a colleague Sammy discuss the day as well as their future plans. It's decided Sammy, an older journalist, will be tagging along with Lee and Joel as they head toward the White House, hoping to interview the president. Sammy says, Western forces, Florida alliance, there's no coordination between the secessionists. You watch, as soon as D.C. falls, they'll turn on each other. And I think that may be the whole point of the movie. The movie does not necessarily have a hopeful outlook for humanity, certainly not for America. As Lee goes to bed, Jessie appears, basically fangirling over her for a bit, before then turning and going into the hotel bar to let Lee go upstairs. As Lee relaxes in the bath, we see her remembering all sorts of unimaginable violence and torture and death that she's seen and photographed in her career, and it's pretty freaking awful. The next morning, Lee is outraged to see that Sammy and Joel have invited the young photojournalist Jessie along on their journey, and she is somehow convinced to let her go after Joel says she's pretty cool. Point is, Lee has misgivings that clearly stem from her own too-soon maturation from being a war photographer. Regardless, the foursome takes off in the SUV, headed for Washington, D.C., and we see that they have 857 miles on their journey. We see abandoned zombie apocalypse cars, military checkpoints, evacuating families, and more along the way. Not too long into their trip, they find a gas station that appears to be open, and Sammy rightly encourages them to stop because they may not find much gas along the way. It's here that we learn Canadian money is now a lot more valuable than the American dollar. Like a lot. 300 American gets you a sandwich. 300 Canadian gets you a bunch of gasoline. While the SUV fills up on gas, Jessie stupidly exits the vehicle and walks down to a nearby car wash warehouse thing, and she's followed by one of the gas station guys with guns. Down in the structure, she finds a couple of partially skinned, tortured, hanging individuals. Lee, who sensed the danger and followed behind the pair, uses her savvy to get the scary man to pose for a photograph, thereby reducing her and Jessie's image as potential targets and making them look like allies. The pair get out of there, though Jessie does have a panic attack in the car while Lee shames her for even going down to the garage in the first place. Lee lectures her, and when she turns around toward the back seat, she sees Jessie is crying, and she says, shit, she's crying. The back seat is both a kindergarten and an old people's home because Lee has run out of tact. A bit later, Lee spies a downed helicopter in a parking lot and has Jessie walk down there with her to photograph it. Jessie apologizes for jamming her way onto the SUV, and Lee says she's not angry about that, but there's no version of this that isn't a mistake. She knows because she's lived it. She says, you remember when you lose your shit or get blown up or shot. Jesse asks if she would take her picture if Jesse died, and Lee replies, abso-fucking-lutely, but she uses the words, what do you think? Later that night, 500 miles from D.C., there is a nearby gunfire battle, and Joel is itching for some action. He convinces Lee to head that way in the morning if they're still going at it. And I'm very happy to see that the Civil War has not stopped people from being able to get weed and liquor. Joel pranks Jesse by telling her that she can't go tomorrow. She'll have to hang back and not join them at the conflict site. He mentions he'll be able to sleep because he's got a bit of Ativan. And I think there's no accident here that Joel is frequently drinking, smoking weed, taking Ativan, and other things, because I think that is how he personally is coping with his trauma from being a war reporter. Next, we jump straight into the battle action in some kind of city square as Jesse and Lee both take what I personally deem to be too many damn risks to capture their photos. However, they both survive the battle and follow the soldiers as they sweep the building before we get one of a few great scenes in this movie where the music cue drops and all the other noise cuts out as we see the soldiers drag 3 hooded prisoners to a mound of grass before mowing them down with some kind of Gatling gun. They shoot them way more times than is necessary, and they enjoy it way too much. The music is up-tempo, upbeat, paired with the shocking imagery, while Lee stands above, looking down on Jesse taking photos of the assassinations or the executions. Great scene. Love that scene. Music is very effectively used throughout this movie. We next see the 4 arrive at a stadium that's been turned into a shelter. They're allowed to get some food and park, but are told there's no tents available. Jesse and Lee spend some time up in the bleachers while Jesse looks through her photos from the day and asks Lee when she became a photojournalist. She knows the answer, but she wants to hear it from Lee herself. She is embarrassed by her photos until she finds one good one, and even Lee says it's a great photo, and it's clear she's beginning to soften a bit on Jesse. That night, we see the gang smoking weed and drinking and sharing laughs on a blanket on the grass, and shots of the other folks in the safety of the shelter just being human in the midst of a very inhuman war. After some travel the next day, the group find themselves in a small town that seems completely disconnected from the war around it. Kids on sidewalks, happy people everywhere, nice landscaping, open shops and stores. The gal at the cash register at a boutique tells them very nonchalantly they just don't pay attention to the stuff outside the town. And then we get a lovely moment where Lee tries on a dress and lets Jesse take her photo. When Lee exits, Sammy points out that there are snipers on many of the rooftops. This town is not as quaint and cozy as it appears. Back on the road, talk turns to interviewing the president. And Lee rather ominously says, just as long as he isn't dead when I get there. They come upon a dead military body in the middle of the road and briefly stop before proceeding slowly. Suddenly they're fired upon, and Joel races the SUV over the body and parks it behind an existing truck and stops. There are 2 uniformed sniper dudes just beside that truck, and here is where I think the movie is again underscoring one of its major themes, as the sniper dudes say they don't know who's in the building shooting, but since he's shooting at them, they are also going to shoot at him, a concept Joel is struggling to grasp. As Lee lies in the grass looking at flowers swaying in the wind, as the sniper dudes finally take down the shooter. A bit further down the road, another truck comes up behind them very quickly, and they are alarmed until it turns out to be a pair of journalist friends of theirs that they were just playing a prank, as you do during wartime. Anyway, because they're all dead inside from reporting on the war, 2 of them decide to switch vehicles and be daredevils, a stunt that Kaylee Spaney actually did herself, according to IMDb. The second vehicle, now with one of the buddy friends and Jesse, races ahead, as you do during wartime. Lee almost crashes her SUV into a tree just by trying to catch up. By the time Lee catches up to them, the truck is abandoned in front of a farmhouse. They slowly drive back behind the farmhouse until they see 3 soldiers dumping dead bodies into a ditch from the back of a truck while holding Jesse and the other man at gunpoint. And we are never told what those dead people did to get themselves killed, but it's a good bet they didn't invite the soldiers to their game night. Lee decides to go down there, and everyone but Sammy walks down there, and surprise, it's Jesse Plemons, who actually was a last-minute replacement in this role. The original actor cast couldn't be there for some reason. I don't remember. And Kirsten Dunst was all, I kind of know an actor. And that's how her husband got a role where he spent 1 day shooting and nearly stole the entire film. He harrowingly interrogates the journalists about how American they are before shooting the 2 Asian journalists. Before he can shoot anyone else, Sammy shows up in the truck and hits all 3 soldiers and Jesse narrowly gets out of the way by rolling into the pit of bodies, which is somehow only the third most traumatic experience Jesse has in this movie. As the journalists pile into the truck, one of the soldiers has survived and grabbed his gun and starts firing at them as they flee. On the road, still racing away, Sammy reveals he's been shot. With the group unable to do anything but drive forward in the hopes of finding help, Sammy dies in the backseat before they get to the Western Forces camp. In the second great scene, where the music fades up and every other sound fades away as they drive through a burning forest in the night, and the fire raging as the dying newsman races through to reach the other side, is not a subtle image, but for me, it's appropriately strong. For the record, Joel's silent scream about Sammy's death as the tanks and soldiers march behind him is an image that will stay with me for a long time. Mm-hmm. Joel, who has been craving action and talking about getting boners over gunfire, has finally had the war activities he salivated over hit too close to home. At the camp, Jesse looks at and then deletes a photo she had taken of Sammy's body. And I think that's important growth, as she's realized some great photos don't necessarily need to be taken. Some other journalist friends inform the group that the Western forces are going to attack D.C. soon. And while they try to give Lee condolences about Sammy, Joel is just wanting them to skip and go straight to the information about the attack. But this time, it's not a lust of wartime action fueling Joel. It's to give Sammy's death some meaning by finishing their quest to interview the president. In a brief lull before the action, Jesse mourns not having known Sammy better, and Lee tells her that the Sammy she knew in the last few days was the person Sammy always was. Jesse says, "These last few days, I've never been scared like that before, and I've never felt more alive." And Lee looks at her with what I think is regret that Jesse's not only caught the bug for wartime journalism, but already has the first set of traumatic memories she will probably be haunted by down the road. The opening of the nighttime battle is another sound-free montage of violence set to music as Jesse, Lee, and Joel follow Western Forces troops closely as the battle rages and they get closer to the White House. Outside the White House, the journalists hide behind concrete barriers as gunfire and RPGs erupt. It's pretty terrifying. Lee, in particular, appears greatly affected emotionally and mentally by the violence, and she struggles to even move at times, frozen in a panic. And I believe Lee is now feeling 25 years worth of traumatic experiences that she has been suppressing all at one time. And as a side note, this finale does a really good job of showing you where everyone is throughout the action. Suddenly, the president's limo races out from the White House, but our heroes correctly assume it's a decoy and continue toward the White House. They actually get inside the White House before any troops do, though they are quickly joined by Western Forces soldiers who are also determined the president was still in the building. The soldiers move through the White House with precision, and the journos follow close behind. They encounter a Secret Service agent in the press briefing room who wants to negotiate, but they kill her and move on until they reach a hallway with gunmen at the end of the hall. Jesse impulsively rushes out to the center of the hallway to take a photo, but Lee steps between her and the gunman, taking the fatal gunshots herself as Jesse's instincts take over and she takes Lee's photo as she falls dead. And I do think the moment is a tad melodramatic, as I think they could have found a way for Lee to die and Jesse to take that picture without it being such a traditional and obvious heroic sacrifice. But I think it's a moment that is specifically here to show us that Jesse's instinct as a war journalist are finally arrived, as it takes her less than a second after being shoved to the ground to grab her camera and start firing, as she instinctively knows there's going to be a photo worth taking that will also be tragic. It might also be when part of her humanity disappears, as she prioritizes getting shot over everything else. Getting the shot, sorry. Joel takes Jesse's shoulder, but then moves on and doesn't even seem to acknowledge that Lee is dead. He's consumed by this story. And getting the story will make everything bad that happened along the way have meaning for him, or at least he thinks. To her credit, Jesse briefly does mourn Lee before following Joe into the Oval Office. Just down the hall in the Oval Office, the president is finally cornered. Joel insists on getting a quote before the soldiers kill him. And for some reason, the soldiers oblige. And the president says, "Don't let them kill me," which Joel agrees aloud is a pretty perfect quote. And the president is then killed as Jesse takes the photo, having now fully taken Lee's place. She wanted to be like her, and finally she is her. And that is Civil War, gentlemen. What did you think this time around?
This is going to be one of those that I wish that I had written 500 notes down for so I could remember all the things that I wanted to say about this movie. that I do believe that I could take longer than the movie's length to talk about. I do think that it's this kind of movie. Um, the first thing, I'm glad that you brought attention to the thing Sammy says towards the beginning, talking about how there's no coordination between these forces. And you said this is what I think is one of the big parts of the movie, or is the main part of the movie, or whatever. And I agree with this. Um, Fast forward to the ending, I can't help but look at some of these killings as just straight up murder at the end. Like, they don't need to kill these people at the end. They might need to kill the people who are shooting at them, but they don't need to kill the president. They don't need to kill the Secret Service agent.
Nope.
Those should just be hostages at that point. But they decide, no, we've gone in here to kill, and it was a straight up murder. And I don't know, you may be weirdly rooting for the Western forces as they go in, because this president is clearly a tyrant, right? Well, we don't know that he is. We don't know that he's a tyrant. That's the kind of the trick of this movie.
Yep.
We don't really know. He does say some things that are very tyrant like, and very like, what he says is a bunch of bullshit, and he's whatever, but we don't really know what his style as a president has been. But either way, I think it's they don't need to kill him at the end. And then what? These forces are going to like take over the White House now.
Yeah,
the ones that decide what's going to happen. So yeah. And then it ties into, I told you this over the weekend when we got on Slack. I said, this might be the 6th or 7th time I watched this movie, and I don't think it's ever been read as bleak as it has this time. Not because of what real world stuff is going on, but because of what this movie seems to be saying. And I really sort of had I just had a moment watching this movie thinking that it has a lot to say about whether or not you should care about other people, or it's like not caring is survival in this movie. The reason why Lee is so upset about the 2 new people riding with her is that now she's forced to care. She's got to be like on top of them, on their survival now. Whereas she could just go into any situation and not worry about that type of thing before. Now she's got to worry about the old man and the girl who's barely an adult, basically. And so like all of this is sort of making her get to the point where she's regaining her humanity as Kaylee Spaney's character loses hers.
Yes.
And so like it's making her less of a photojournalist, or at least less of one than she was. And of course, what happens? She goes to save her at the end, and she pays for it. She dies for caring. It's such a like and then we tie that into the town, the town that I call the ghost town in this movie. One of the most haunting things you'll ever see. There's a point where Joel goes up and says, there's a civil war going on, right?
I think like, it's like a pretty big
pretty big civil war going on, right? And so like it's one of those things where you have to ask yourself, is this town full of people who don't care, right? About what they're doing? Is it also because you also hear about others that don't care? You hear about Lee's parents are pretending this isn't happening, and Jesse's are pretending it's not happening
in Missouri.
Yeah, in Missouri, no less. And you also hear about the fact that I sit here and wonder, what are they even doing the press stuff for? Because it doesn't sound like anybody cares about what's going on. Who?
I agree with everything you're saying, but I do think the rest of the world, like they work for Reuters, right? So yeah. I do think the rest of the world is reading news about this civil war, right?
Well, but they may not care about it.
I think it's beyond that. I think in their minds, it's about legacy. It's about 100 years from now, 50
Oh,
years from even,
something
you know,
being
like
documented.
it's not part of it certainly is, hey, look at this thing now, but it's also documenting for ages to come,
Mm.
you know, images, videos, words.
I get that.
And that is depending on whether or not the new people in power are even going to allow this type
Right.
of thing.
Don't
to
burn
be-
those images.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, that's why it was so bleak to me on this go round, was that everybody who decides to care, even Sammy, when he gets in the van and he runs over Jesse Plemons and everybody, he ends up paying for that. There's even, and then there's a point too, I thought really hit the ultimate cynical dial, is when Joel says Sammy didn't die for anything good. He did die for something good. He saved your lives. He didn't save everybody's lives, but he saved your lives. And so he doesn't think of his life as anything worth saving in that. And that's what the way I read this is that,
Well, I agree.
you know, and so it's one of those type of things where, that's what this movie seems to be saying. I will say, I'm extrapolating here from this ghost town that's in this movie. The thing about not caring is that eventually, like if you don't have a side, or you don't have an opinion about what's going on, then you are basically being forced into what somebody's idea of government is at that point. You may be okay right now, like everything's normal right now, but it's eventually going to come to your town, this new government, this new stuff, and and you have no say in it at that point. You haven't done anything to have a say in it.
Yeah.
So
I think, just to interject, and I'll let you continue. I just want to make sure while you're talking about this that I think the movie is sort of making 2 points. That we've got the journalists who are observing this war, and it's affecting them, it's impacting them and their mental health. But I think the movie is also talking in general about observing what's actually going on around you in the real world, and that having an impact on your mental health. And you can choose, like the town, to just not pay any attention to whatever's going on outside of the radius of your own home. But that is not healthier long term.
No, it really
I
isn't.
think that's a key point of the movie. So
and
sorry for interrupting.
like I said, eventually something's going to come to your town. That new government is going to come to your town whenever it's established. Is going to throw that whole town into upheaval at that point. Like, you're not going to be able to not care anymore. You don't know what this California, Texas, Florida,
Right.
whatever is going to be the country at this point. I think now here's the other thing. This movie, when it came out, was like, well, it doesn't really have its politics at the forefront or whatever. I think it has a side on this. I don't think it particularly points out any one side in the movie. I think it's just saying it's a very like pro don't kill people type movie, and
Yes.
and anti-racist movie, basically. Like, I don't know if Jesse Plemons is part of the Western Forces. I don't know if he's part of the government. I don't think that's ever made clear. Maybe it's something in there, whatever. I think that's an intentional choice, is to not tell you that they're part of any one thing. This can happen anywhere, is basically what it's saying. There's no mistake about the 2 Asian journalists getting killed while the white ones get to stay alive.
Well, right.
In that
Well, look
scene.
at the bodies in the pit.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
all people of color. Like, it's
they try to put that powder, that lye or whatever that stuff on them to cover it up, but it's very prominent that who they're killing there. So, like, yes, the movie is interrupted by another person of color saving them by the end of it, but we're supposed to think, oh, they would have killed the white people too, but I don't know that. I don't know that for sure. And I think that's the movie's way of saying, look who did die in this situation. All the people of color end up dying in that situation. So yeah, it's one of these movies that when I first watched it, I didn't know what to feel about it. I didn't know what to think about it. I was like, I wish it would be one way or another about certain things, whatever. Then the sins process came up, and I probably watched this movie 4 or 5 times during that process. And it just got it just more and more of an appreciation for this thing kept going at this point. It really took me until about this viewing right here to say this movie's just great. It's just great. It's what it is. It's what this movie is. So yeah, that's what I guess that's what I have to say about this movie. There's so many other things. There's so many other things I could probably like talk about. We'll see what Aaron has to say. Maybe it'll spark some more discussion, but sure. Aaron, take it away.
Yeah. I mean, you said a lot of what I was going to say. I think this movie is about losing and gaining empathy and humanity, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and that is the process that Lee and Jesse are intersecting on. One is losing their humanity and empathy, and one is gaining their humanity and empathy back that they had lost. And I think the reason the movie focuses so much on that is because, to me, it feels, and has since I first watched it, and again, I'm putting my own brain on this, my own perspective on this, but it feels so much to me about polarization. You know, the idea of us versus them, the idea of, oh, you're either, you know, with us or against us. And what the movie seems to be saying is that seed leads to this, right? Like, all these scenes are different examples of what that idea, dehumanizing somebody who believes different than you, sees the world different than you, you've othered in some way, skin color, whatever it is. That seed, ultimately, if you follow it down its natural path, leads to shooting at someone who you don't even know who they are or why they're shooting at you. You just know they're shooting at you, and so you have to shoot back at them. Like, that's what that seed leads to. It leads to snipers on all of the buildings as, you know, you try to be in denial about what's going on in the world around you. And I can see how that feels very nihilistic to a lot of people and very grim. But I think it is in some ways a cautionary thing to say, okay, is there another path? Is there another choice? Is it possible? You kind of either fall in one of two categories. You either have the hope that possibly humans could actually not plant that seed and actually believe in each other and give each other the benefit of the doubt, have conversations with each other, not resort to violence, those kind of things. Or you just believe that's kind of part of the core of who we are as tribal, you know, entities. And it's always it's a recycling story of polarization and loss of humanity. And then maybe we'll gain it back a little bit, and then we're going to lose it again because that seed is there. And I think where you fall on the movie probably depends on how you see those possibilities. If, you know, where you see the possible hope or lack of hope in that regard.
I see zero hope, and I adore the movie.
Yeah. Well, in talking about the movie as a movie, it's, you know, itself is even a different conversation. But one of the things that makes the movie such an amazing movie for me, and one of the reasons I love what Alex Garland tends to do, is because I can't stop thinking about it. Right? Yep. I can't stop processing it. I can't stop recognizing new little elements and themes, and whether I'm making them up and they were unintended or whether they were intended and I'm finding them, it doesn't even matter, because good art gives you the opportunity to, you know, have those conversations, have those thoughts. So yeah, I think there's a real anti-polarization foundation to this, and then you have to like ask the question, well, is that possible? You know, how do we get there? What is that? Some other specific things that I wanted to mention during watching it. I think there's also this subset about the free press in this, which ostensibly is what the movie is about, right? It's about taking the pictures and those kind of things, that becomes a stand-in for a different sort of radicalization, right? Like there's another type of othering that happens when you disconnect yourself from what you are documenting, right? And is that much different than disconnecting yourself from the whole thing going on in the first place? Like, are those similar? Do they, you know, are they neighbors on the spectrum? And I think the movie says that they are, and it shows you that while documentation is important, if it's done without the human element, it becomes as soulless as the war going on around it. And
Well, I mean, just the way that the two of them sit there in the bleachers and look at a photo of a dead man
mhm,
and are only talking about the aesthetic value of the picture and not the
right,
contents.
right,
Yep.
yeah. It is no mistake that the movie ends with her taking a shot, right?
Mm.
Like it is their cameras are their weapons.
Yeah.
And, it ends with her shooting the president.
Yeah.
Like that's the idea here, is that there is some sort of, kind of correlation between what they are doing and the dehumanization of the military movement as well. Some of the quotes I loved that speak to this. Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this, but here we are. Speaking to the futility of, I thought I had a purpose in doing this, and it doesn't seem to be fulfilling the purpose. Like you talked about, Chris. And then the other one was, once you start asking those questions, you can't stop. So we don't ask. We record so other people ask. We dehumanize ourselves and those around us, so that later down the road, somebody else can do the right thing, like to actually ask the questions. And that's what soldiers say. We fire the guns because, later down the road, it's going to have, these positive impacts, and we're part of this process. And it really speaks to the idea of how we can compartmentalize our purpose, right? And how we can compartmentalize who we are and how we interact in the world. And yeah, it's so pertinent to what the world continues to go through, not just now, but over and over again, with the idea of how power uses polarization to either gain power or stay in power. And the quickest way to get power from the people is tell the people the other people are monsters. The other people are monsters, and that's why that you have to elect me. And that's, and I think all of that is here in its genius, and I love this movie.
Is there something we can dissect about that, taking the picture of the television as the president is on the screen and everything? Is there something else being said there other than I'm just kind of like screwing around, taking a picture? I know you said that, it's kind of a bookender type of thing, right? Like, it's at the beginning.
Could just be foreshadowing.
It could be just foreshadowing, but I also thought that maybe it was saying something about the distance that we have between us and the president at this point. The press isn't allowed to actually photograph the president themselves, that type of thing. But maybe it is just the foreshadowing. Maybe that's the
or
point.
It could
of
be I've got you in my sights, I'm coming for you,
Yeah.
kind of thing. I think you could even just dismiss it as she's calibrating camera settings somehow if you wanted to, but I see a little meaning in it.
I think there's a whole nother avenue that this movie doesn't really explore, at least as far as I can tell, that plays into this, and especially journalists have to struggle with, which is now, you mentioned this, Chris, not only do those in power decide what pictures to show, anyone can invent any picture they want to and say it was documented. You know what I mean? Like we now live in a world where it is easier than ever to fool people about what is documented, what is real. And that's again a ploy for power. And
as Syndrome said in The Incredibles, when you can't tell if anything's real, then nothing's real.
That's true. It's so true.
Syndrome, a voice for our times.
I agree. The sniper scene also probably should get dissected a little bit more, just because, first off, as far as war movies are concerned, most sniper scenes like Full Metal Jacket or Saving Private Ryan or any of these kind of movies that have snipers, they're action scenes. This one is a suspense scene. And we're not really even, I don't know, again, we don't know who we're supposed to be rooting for. We're not really, I don't think we need to root for anybody in this, but I get, it's like, the thing that you were talking about, Aaron, about, othering people and stuff like that. I guess at first this person in the house is like, nobody better come around my house ever. And they just start shooting at people for no reason, basically. And finally shot at the wrong people who decided that they were going to make it a mission to kill this one person. And you hear all the press people before they even go that way. They're like, why don't we just go around? And they say something about like it's going to take too long to do that, or what. I think that's what it is. It's too long, but not for these soldier guys who were sitting there waiting to sniper this dude from their little, like, that weird setup that they're at, the like living room, like it's like a new subdivision that's coming up or something.
Yeah, I don't really
and
know
it's like
what
a
to make of that set.
model of a room, but like they could have gone around in that situation, like they don't have to spend their entire afternoon or whatever. And they're the most smart asses motherfuckers ever in this movie too.
They are like, oh, that's why press is printed on the side of your vehicle. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah,
that scene is funny, man. This movie has a sense of humor too, which is wild for all the things that it's doing. You're not wrong about Plemons stealing the movie almost. He's so good in that scene.
That was, he didn't have enough screen time, but that was talk about Oscar nominations for that. I think
I would have supported it. I mean, apparently he stayed in character all day and didn't interact with anybody else until they shot the scene.
Can you imagine that? Oh my God.
He just put those glasses on and he was
my husband. He's acting like this all day.
Man, to show that tension is properly ratcheted up when he does that whole thinking about what they're saying, and the gun kind of slumps down.
Yes.
And like, you're just like, it's just like, God, man, because those are the most dangerous people in the world. The ones that you just don't know what they're going to do at any time. It's like Joe Pesci and Goodfellas, one of those type of guys,
Yeah.
All right. I think we could talk about this movie forever, but let's get on to our super secret double feature.
I can go first. This is a tonal thing mostly, and I went with Children of Men. I think it feels like that same apocalyptic, traveling, trying to get somewhere, trying to accomplish a goal. Misinformation, who's the enemy, who's the friend, all that stuff is here. They just feel very, very similar to me.
I think there's a connection there. I get it.
Yeah,
I totally agree with this. This is a perfect double feature for this. Mine is a little bit more straightforward, on the nose type of stuff, but I don't think very many people really kind of know about this movie. But Oliver Stone did a movie called Salvador in 1986. That's about photojournalists. It's James Woods starring in this one. He's a guy who's just he just needs money, basically, and there's a civil war going on in El Salvador. So he goes down to El Salvador. Now that movie's a lot more because it's based on a true story. It's a lot more steeped into the politics of everything that's going on. It's a very clear communists versus right wing type of thing. Ronald Reagan's election in 1980 is something that is kind of helping out the people who are the right wing and trying to kill the communists and all that type of stuff. That's a featured thing in this movie. I also wonder what James Woods thinks of this movie 40 years later. Like, does he agree with the character in this? It's hard separating the artist from the person in this, but it was like, would he have the same thoughts about all that's going on in this movie? I don't think so, but anyway, Salvador is the one that came up for me. That was a year Oliver Stone came out with this and Platoon in the same year. So it was,
wow.
So it was a pretty big year for him, but that's the one that I came up with.
Good picks.
And just so the chat knows that you're not on the wrong wavelength, my other possible choice was Nightcrawler. So it was loaded and ready in case I wanted to go.
And I think it had been used recently too.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So I can't remember what for, but it definitely has been used recently. So.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. What's with the next week's homework? Aaron's turn. What do you got for us?
Well,
Aaron?
this is a unique little situation. I'm not sure that it has happened before. This was a small recommend from one of you that I took to heart and decided to watch, and immediately after watching was like, that's my next big recommend. We all have to watch this. This movie is amazing. It is Elevator to the Gallows. This is 1958. It's on HBO Max. So if you have HBO Max, you should have pretty easy access to it. Chris did a great job of explaining what makes it awesome, and we will have a lot of fun breaking down what makes it awesome next week, I think.
Yeah, this movie is freaking tastic. It was a recent discovery of mine, probably 2 or 3 years ago. I saw it at the Bell Court for the first time. Really, really, really good movie. Jeremy, have you ever seen this?
I have not. No, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to seeing how you react to this one. This one's good.
Sweet.
This one's very fantastic. So,
yep. Sweet.
All right, that's going to do it for this week. Chat, once again, thank you so much for coming out and watching us. It's a different day, different time, but you came out anyway, and you came strong anyway. Boy, that sounded dirty. That sounded dirty. But yeah, you did your usual strong chatting in the chat. So there you go. I appreciate that very much.
Good save. Good save, Chris.
Yeah,
good job.
That's right. That's right. Nobody will know what I was thinking. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. We will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.